welcome to Life Talk for June the 7th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, now before we get too far along here, and before you start thinking that Renee's got some sort of horrible disease, she didn't have enough sense. Knowing that we were going to do this Life Talk Live, she didn't have enough sense not to eat a blue Slurpee right beforehand. So her teeth and her tongue and her whole mouth is blue. So if you see flashes of blue over here, don't think that she's come down with something.
This is the problem of doing live shows daily or almost daily. You just can't help it.
Yeah, you can.
It's my blue slush.
Right. She had a blue slushie from Dairy Queen or somewhere. I don't know where it was. Sonic. Okay. Anyway, she's not dying from some sort of incurable disease that we know of. But anyway, you brought me a story today about a Olympic track star.
Yes, I did.
Named Sanya RichardsRoss. Tell us about Miss Ross. What's the situation there?
The situation there is Miss Ross had an abortion the day before she went to Beijing to win an Olympic medal.
Right.
And she has prayed about this for a while and decided that even though she's not completely healed from it, that it's now time for her to come out and start speaking about it, because she says, quote, "I literally don't know another female track and field athlete who hasn't had an abortion," and that's sad. So that leads into...
Yeah, and we had another lady that you mentioned to me.
And
last year.
Last year, Sarah Brown was also training to go to the Olympics, and she decided to choose life over a gold medal. And I remember the story from last year, and that was completely covered. Nobody talked about it. And
covered it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't covered. It was covered up.
It was covered up. Yeah.
Right. The media didn't cover that naturally.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, when you told me about this, it reminded me of a piece that we did on Life Talk many years ago about this issue. And this woman says that she doesn't know a single athlete who hadn't had an abortion.
Yeah.
Why is it that 100% of these female athletes have had an abortion?
Yeah.
Why is that? That's the second question.
Right.
We did a show on Life Talk many years ago about something that the International Olympic Committee had discovered, and it dealt with what's called blood doping. Mm-hmm. And what it was, as athletes, not just female, but all athletes, were going in and having blood drawn. They give a pint of blood or 2 pints of blood. And then this was well in advance of any kind of athletic competition. And what they do is they'd give this blood, and then they'd wait until their body had replenished the blood that they had lost. Then they would have that blood that they had taken out put back in them. And what this did was it increased the amount of blood in their bodies, and thus increased the amount of oxygen in their bodies. And they said this actually enhanced their athletic performance. The International Olympic Committee became aware of this and basically looked at it like they were doing drugs, taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
And they prevented this. It's called blood doping, and they started putting measures in place that would prevent these guys from doing blood doping. The problem was that female athletes then discovered that when they were pregnant, their blood volume increased and the amount of oxygen their blood could contain increased, and their athletic performance went up.
Right.
So then what was discovered is that a lot of Olympic and other, not just Olympic, but female athletes were getting pregnant on purpose before competitions. Then going into the competition with this increased blood volume, increased oxygen in their system, and then having abortion as soon as the Olympics were over. And the International Olympic Committee was kind of perplexed. What you can't tell women you can't get pregnant, and you can't tell women who are pregnant they can't compete.
Right.
So how do you control that? And it was really a dilemma. And I don't know how the IOC how they ever addressed the issue, or whether they did or just let it go or whatever. But apparently, if this woman is accurate in what she's saying, that she doesn't know one single Olympic athlete that hadn't had an abortion,
right,
that means this is still going on.
Absolutely.
There's no way to explain that by any other means.
Right.
So women get pregnant on purpose to have increased athletic performance. Then when the performance is over, they kill the baby and they wait till the next time. And I know some teams, some athletic teams, they call it when this was originally happening. For example, I think the Soviet team at that time was just universal. And they also discovered that the person getting these women pregnant was the coach of the the Soviet Union team. He was getting these girls pregnant on purpose, and they were willing to get pregnant on purpose. But here's a question I raise for this, and I've always said, when you legalize abortion as a culture, you have to be willing to take all the things that come along with it, all the stuff that we see, the selling of baby parts and the pedophile protection racket, and all the things that we see.
Right.
You got to be willing to take. That's part of the deal. That's what you get. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the question I would raise, and we brought this up before, and this was many, many years ago, before you were even at Life Dynamics. But I would ask you the question: if there's nothing wrong with abortion, what's wrong with what these women are doing? What's wrong with a woman getting pregnant on purpose for her own purposes? In other words, to make more money, get more scholarships, get more whatever it might be.
Right.
What's wrong with it if there's nothing wrong with abortion?
Well, to the pro-choice crowd, there is nothing wrong with it. This is just everyday life for them.
Isn't it a woman's choice? If that's what you're saying is right. If it's a woman's choice to have an abortion, why is it not her choice to get pregnant on purpose for the purpose of having an abortion?
Right. And that's exactly what they do.
And that's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah.
And this is an example that once you accept this sort of evil, this sort of barbarism, you have to take everything that goes along with it.
Yeah. And that's why we are here doing what we're doing.
Right.
Is because we have moral principles, and the Bible is our
guiding principle.
Principle here. And so, as Whoopi Goldberg would say, that we just need to go die in a hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole nother issue.
That's a
right
whole
there.
other story right there.
Right.
These people are, you mentioned that. Watch something like The View, and you'll get a good feel for the kind of people that we're going up against.
Oh my gosh. The pro-lifers are jihad terrorists here.
That's what they claim. They say we're no different than the Taliban or the ISIS fighters or whatever. We're exactly the same as them. But this and that kind of goes to something we've talked about here before. You have to understand, this is a spiritual battle at its core.
Yeah.
This is a continuation of a battle that started in the Garden of Eden, and this is just the latest manifestation of it, and that's what we're in. Right.
Yeah.
But again, I'll raise the philosophical question: if having an abortion is just a choice, that's all it is, right? Then what's wrong with a woman saying, it benefits me to have an abortion, so therefore I can have one? Well, it also benefits me to get pregnant on purpose.
Right. So I can win my gold medal.
So I can win my gold medal, and then I can make a lot of money on shoe endorsements and whatever else, or I can get scholarships to college or whatever it is I want.
Right.
And then I can abort this baby. It's not a baby. It's just
it's a clump of cells to them.
Clump of cells, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, there's no organs or.
So what's the problem?
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if you think about it for a moment, what they're saying is that getting pregnant on purpose, intentionally, to enhance your athletic performance is really no different than just training, lifting weights or running or whatever else you might do. It's just part of your training.
Right, part of the practice.
Part of the practice.
Yep.
Anyway, that's these things just go on and on. There's no
stopping, no ending.
And one of the things I've always talked to you about when you first came here, I said abortion touches everything in life today. And you thought I was nutty. Well, you still think I'm nutty in a lot of ways, but
I wasn't going to say that, you did.
But I'm not sitting here with a blue tongue, so that's anyway. But the fact is, if I'd have said to you that day, abortion affects the Olympics,
I would have looked at you like you were crazy.
Nuttier than a fruitcake, right?
Yes.
Here it is.
Yeah, it's true.
And abortion affects every aspect of life. There's no way you can get around it. And we could sit here, as you know, we could sit here and come up with 1,000 different subjects that you'd say, connect that to abortion. I don't think you can do it. And we can.
Oh, absolutely.
We can. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're out of time. You got anything?
No, just send in your comments or show suggestions. We would appreciate having them.
Right, and you can send them to Renee. She goes over everything. And we had a show yesterday, just on the day before yesterday, on a person's comment that they had made.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
Yes.
Anyway, we're out of time. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next time.